my last ride. Time off, feeling hyper till that Chrysler smashed my left side. The first time I almost died, unconscious till the hurt at first. When I did come to, felt like my insides had burst. Didn't have the wind to curse, contemplating the hearse. Flashes of life since birth, from my ways as a kid to the present way I live. Never a broken bone, but this time 6 ribs. Lungs filling up with liquid, thinking, is this it? God forgive me for my sin, please. Remove the blood from my lungs so I can breathe again with ease. I'm not ready to leave. Felt like my chest was being sat on by fat men. That's what it's like when your lungs are collapsing. These breaths are absent. Paramedics at the scene, unaware of the puncture. And it just so happens my spleen was ruptured. Sedatives added for comfort, but I could barely breathe, I can't stand it. The ultimate feeling of panic when you think you might not make it. All the pain before you realize it ain't shh. Laying in the hospital naked, UMC Las Vegas. Grandparents visit my station. Somehow I pulled through without an operation, but I was filled with hatred of my situation. Wanted to leave even though I felt too weak, but I was out soon enough, a total of 2 weeks. Convalescent evident, time spent with family, but that's just the beginning of the tragedy. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain that I've been through, but I've become a better man by what I went through. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain that I've been through, but I've become a better man by what I went through. Out from the hospital for less than a month, made a return, spitting blood from my lung. Almost spent my last day in the sun, heart beating like a drum of a sort. Breaths of oxygen coming up short. A couple hours later on life support. Doc said it was emergency, exploratory surgery, necessary for me to go under into a deep slumber. A chance I wouldn't wake, my nerves froze like a tundra. Was this my fate? I could only wonder. Complicated like a Rubik's. I said, Doc, let's do this. Sounding foolish, really didn't know how serious it was. IV in my vein for the drugs. Didn't take long for my brain to float. Next thing I didn't know was a hose down my throat. Is it time to see God or will I see him later? Lungs only working cause of ventilator. Word up, time for the surgeon to earn his bucks. Open me up from my chest to my gut, but he couldn't tell what was what. A doctor's worst nightmare. He must have been scared adjusting his eyewear, so he put his light there and did what he could. But my vital signs were dropping, things weren't looking good. Temperature 105, 40-60 blood pressure. Might not survive despite all the effort. People watching from an angle, a car crash near fatal. But while I was under, I was talking to an angel. Even though I can't remember what he said, I still see him in my head. Meanwhile, the priest at my bed, and my last rites were read. Given 5 minutes to be dead, but I was given the chance to restart my life instead. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain that I've been through, but I've become a better man by what I went through. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain that I've been through, but I've become a better man by what I went through. While asleep, I dreamt a song to this, but before I finished, I regained consciousness. Shocked by the scenery, seemed like every body part attached to machinery. Before I went under, it never seemed to be this serious. Must have been delirious. Finally begin to see my injuries, complicated by pneumonia. My mom came to see me in Colorado from California to make sure I didn't pass on her. Came within minutes, but God heard the prayers and decided not to end it. Just pushed my body to the limit. I was lucky, but I had to start from scratch. Body looking ugly, down from 140 to about 110. Ribs pressing to the skin, looking like a Jew in World War II. Hands and feet a shade of blue, severely swollen. Doc had put a hole in my chest for the lung tube. Before my life was a mess, but look what it come to. This time, 2 weeks in ICU, plus 4 more weeks in the hospital. A full recovery seemed impossible, but to me, giving up wasn't optional. So I made progress, from morphine to Percocet, to sitting up in bed, from flirting with death, to eating soup, from pissing through a tube, from shooting hoop, from sitting down to recoup, to lifting weight from Erling, cause I couldn't hold down what I ate, to having cheers with my peers, from shedding tears from fear, from needing drugs for the pain, to have chicks screaming my name, but barely alive to a solid 165. There's a reason why God didn't let me die, and it's my duty to find it. If my brain forgets, I got 9 scars to remind it, and there's a button on the stereo for this track to rewind it. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain that I've been through, but I've become a better man by what I went through. Can you feel what I went through? Do you know what it's like to triumph when odds are against you? Wouldn't wish on anyone the pain